I'm excited to get started again. Ooh, my camera is all fuzzy. Hopefully that'll self-correct. Okay, there we go. I found my nose again. Back on to do some Leetcoding. I took a couple of days off. I was doing some other types of programming exercises that didn't really translate well to doing on Leetcode, so I'm going to jump back in today. I've got a handful of array problems lined up, and then I've got a string problem tacked onto the end in case we have enough time. But that's going to be the fourth problem, so I don't know how far I'll get, but we'll just go ahead and get started. So as always, if you're in chat, we'd love a follow. We'd love to hear from you as I'm doing the problems. And if you need anything bigger or smaller, feel free to jump in and tell me. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive in. So the title of this one is 1-bit and 2-bit characters. We have two special characters. The first character can be represented by 1 bit, 0. The second character can be represented by 2 bits, 1, 0, or 1, 1. Given a binary array bits that ends with 0, return true if the last character must be a 1-bit character. I don't know if I understand that yet. So we have two special characters, a 0, and the second character can be represented by 0, 1 or 1, 0. Given a binary array bits that ends with 0, return true if the last character must be a 1-bit character. Okay, so I'm not sure if I follow that yet, but if it's saying that we have to end in a 0, and the only three options for characters are 1, 0, 1, 1, and 0, I'm wondering if it's just asking to find if the second to last character is a 1. Let's look at the examples. So bits are 1, 0, and 0. So the first character would be 1 and 0, and that's a 2-bit character, and then 0. So I think this one would be true. Okay, so true. The only way to decode it is the 2-bit character and 1-bit character. So the last character is a 1-bit character. Okay. Oh, okay. So the edge case here, yeah, okay, so that's example 2. So input bits is 1, 1, 1, 0, and this one is false because I've got a 2-bit character and then another 2-bit character that I can use. So I was wondering if there was a really straightforward trick for checking if the second to last character is a 1, but I don't think that applies because the characters before that could consume it. But if I have a 1 in the second to last character, then I do need to know what came before that. So then I'm thinking this is probably I'm questioning if this could be a greedy algorithm where you just try to consume uh, 2 characters as quickly as you can. And then if you reach the end with 1 character left over, then you know that it has to be a 1-bit character. There might be something else tricky that you could do, like tricky math-wise, where like if the number of elements is... Well, no, because I was wondering if you could do like something with a number of elements and whether or not the sum is even or odd. But in that scenario, you'd have to do the sum of the array anyway, so I don't think that buys you anything. So it might just be an iterate through. So let's start right now to possible solution. So I'd say iterate through the array At each step, consume the max number of characters. If you need okay, so if you find a 1, attempt to jump ahead. So, and I think I'm phrasing that poorly, but I think my point there is if you find a 1, you have to, if you aren't, let me see if I can articulate this. If you are not attempting to finish a 2-bit character and you find a 1, the next character has to be consumed. So really we want to know, so the question we're trying to answer, when you get to the last character, are you consuming a 2-bit character? Yeah. So when you get to the last character, are you building? Okay, so we're going to iterate through the array. At each step, 2a, if character is 0, continue. 2b, if character is 1, set consuming or building 2-bit character. If character is, yeah, okay. So there's another case here. If character is a 1, set build, I keep saying building instead of consuming, or consuming instead of building. Set building 2-bit character, and if character is 1 and we are building, reset building, continue. When done iterating, so iterate through the array to n minus, or to array dot length minus 2. When done iterating, test if we are consuming or building. And then at that point, we're essentially just returning true or false. So if we hit the last character and we are building a 2-bit character, then the answer is false. If we hit the last character and we are not, then the answer is true. And I think there is an optimization in here, because if the last character is a 1, then that 1 can't be a part of a... one second, I'm going to pause my stream here. Sorry. I think there's an optimization for if the last character is a 1, because then we know that it's a 2-bit character and we can probably save ourselves some work there. But let's start here. So Boolean building 2-bit equals false. And then for, and I don't think I need the index here, or actually, yes, I do, because I need to iterate to array.length minus 2 to leave the last character off. So for int I equals 0, I is less than bits.length, I plus plus. If building 2-bit, so if we're building a 2-bit character, then we're just going to consume, we have to consume the next character. And so it doesn't really matter what it is. If it's a 0 or 1, we're going to consume it. So then I think we can just reset 2-bit, building 2-bit to false. Else if building 2-bit is false right now, if bits at I is equal to 0, or really if it's equal to 1, if we're starting a 2-bit character, then building 2-bit gets true. And other than that, I think we just continue. And this needs to be length -1, which will get me all the way up to the end. And then at this point, I think I just need to return the opposite of building 2-bit. So let's try that. Okay, so that works. Let's run some more test cases. Okay, so that works also. Let's go ahead and submit it. Ah, 2 milliseconds. And anybody who's watched my stream knows that I'm terribly curious about how Leetcode chooses to do this, or how Leetcode runs the Java and how they allocate a JVM for you. But in this scenario, it looks like I haven't actually found the fastest. So let's add the like the optimization that I was talking about. So really, if bits at bits.length -1 is equal to 1, return false. Because if the last bit is a 1, then it does have to be part of a 2-bit character. Let's see if that actually works. Okay. I suspect that's what I had missed. Let's run it a few more times and see if that's consistently faster. Okay. 1 millisecond. 0. Okay, I'll take it. Memory-wise, I don't think that there's a whole lot we can do to optimize. We need a Boolean here to keep track of whether or not we're in the process of consuming a bit, or of building a 2-bit character. But I think that's probably about as optimized as I can get it. So I'm happy with that. Let's move on. Okay, so this one is given this is array partition, part 1 apparently. Given an integer of array nums of 2n integers, group these integers into n pairs a1, b1, a2, b2, such that the sum of a1 and b1 for all I is maximized. Interesting. Okay. Explanation. So 1, 4, 3, 2. Output is 4. 1 and 4, 2 and 3. I'm not sure I follow this yet. So such that the sum of min, okay, the sum of the smallest is maximized. So here, min 1 and 4 is 1, min 2 and 3 is 3, min 1 and 4 is 1. Or no. Okay, so we're just breaking it up into 2 pairs. So 1 and 2, and that would give us 3. So that's the incorrect answer. And down here, Down here we've got 1 and 2, and then 3 and 4. So the min is 1 and then 3. Maximum would be 4. Let's look at another example. So 6, 2, 6, 5, 1, 2. And the output is 9. Optimal pairing is 2, 1, 2, 5, 6, 6. So my first thought is I think this is really just a sorting problem. So my first thought here is to use a heap and add all of the integers to a heap and then pop everything off the heap and just add it in pairs, because then I'm able to discard the smallest first. And I'm trying to think in my head if there's a scenario that doesn't support the greedy algorithm, but um, I don't think there is. I think you want to group all of your larger. One second while I adjust my headset. I think you want to group all of your large numbers together, because otherwise, if you put a large and a big number together, that's never advantageous. If you put two small numbers together, then you are, you know that you're going to waste your larger number. So you want to put all of your smallest numbers together. So I think this could either be a heap or just a sort. And I think that would solve it. So let's try just sorting first, because that's really the easiest solution. And then for what am I supposed to return? The sum. And that could actually be a heap as well, but that feels like a lot of overhead for two values. So I think we'll just build our pairs this way. So here I need an int array pairs equals new int nums dot length divided by 2. And let me look up how to one second, I'll be right back. All right. Sorry for the sudden unexpected pause. My wife was putting our daughter to bed and couldn't find the right stuffed animal. What do you do? Life is world, let me tell you. So, need to look up. I swear, I think I look this up every time I do a problem that involves an array. But there's a trick to it in Java, and I can never remember what it is. That's not it. At the time, okay, curly braces, yeah, and then the values. So we've got our sort arrays. We're creating our two-dimensional array with int nums divided by 2, and then for int I equals 0, I is less than nums.length minus 1. Yeah, yep, because we're going to consume one extra number every time. I plus equals 2. Okay. And then our pairs at interesting. Our pairs at I divided by 2, I guess, is going to be new int array of pairs at I, comma, pairs at I plus 1. Let's, and before we go too far, let's just go ahead and print that out. So for int I, system.out.println, for int I equals 0, less than pairs.length. We just want to iterate the pairs array and print it out. And that's going to give us pairs at I. So let's go ahead and give that a try, just to see if we're marshalling the pairs correctly, because I wouldn't want to get too much further. And also, the first time I run code, it always winds up with a bunch of syntax errors. Cannot be converted to int type cannot be converted to pairs. Pairs at I. Oh, int cannot be converted to int. Now that is interesting. It thinks I'm trying to do... so this should not be pairs. This should be nums. So I don't need pairs here, I need nums. I was trying to put an array into an integer. Twisted Tushar. Twisted Tushar? Thanks for jumping in. Appreciate you joining. I am just working through an array problem. I don't know if you're into Leetcode or not, but it's the array partition 1. And the idea is you're given a giant list of integers, and you got to group them into pairs such that the sum of the min of each pair is the biggest it can be. So for this example, 1, 4, 3, 2, the best pairing is 1, 2, and then 3, 4, because that gives you min of 1 and 2 is 1, min of 3 and 4 is 3, and that gives you a result of 4. So that's what I'm doing. Yeah, I think that's the pattern, is most people do this kind of thing when they're leak coding or when they're interviewing and then sort of give up. I am considering interviewing, so there could be some value in it for me there. But I also just enjoy it. It's always good to stay sharp. And what is pairs? You were interviewing. Was that recent or quite a while back? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so it's correct in this case. Been 4 months. Oh, congrats! You got a job pretty recently. That's awesome. You don't have to share, but where you working at? What you doing? Just got onboarded yesterday. Oh, nice. Uh, Man, 4 months between interviewing and getting onboarded feels like a lot, but I guess depending on where you're at, maybe it's not that bad. Backend developer, Bangalore. Awesome. Got a lot of coworkers out of India, which I mean it's a big place, so probably not near Bangalore necessarily, but it's a cool thing about remote is that you can have coworkers from literally all over the world. A fresher. I'm not sure what a fresher means in this context. Are you saying that you're just like a new employee or like fresh out of college? And that worked. So it's 21 milliseconds. And I'm curious if there's something better that I can do. Um, Fresh out of college. Okay. Fresher. I like it. Congrats. That's awesome. That's a huge accomplishment. Finishing school and getting your first job is just a major deal. And one of the major perks is that suddenly you have a salary and you have money that you can do stuff with. Looking at this, 21 milliseconds in the bottom 7% is not great, but it is occurring to me that with the original array sorted, this whole like actually create the pairs thing, I don't think is buying me anything. I think I just need to grab every other value and sum it. So I'm going to try optimizing this a little bit and bump this up, hopefully get rid of that loop, because here I should just be able to do skipping every other value. I should just be able to add them onto result. So let's try that. You said you're a backend developer. What languages are you working in? Leetcode doesn't let you run your code, or it doesn't let you try it too many times. Okay. I effectively shaved a millisecond off, which is fantastic. I wonder if it's this. Let's get rid of that because I don't need that pairs variable anymore. Java Spring, nice. I work in mostly in the Java world, doing a lot of Spring type stuff, and then some like proprietary web framework type things. But Spring is pretty ubiquitous. Okay, so I'm bouncing between like actually pretty good, 10 milliseconds, and really not good. Any advice? Um, that's really generic um, and kind of tough to answer. It depends on what you're looking to do. Um, the one piece of really generic advice that I'd have for any new engineer is accept that for a long time when you start, career wise, yeah. Uh, Accept that for a while when you start, you're going to have to be the deep dive, the problem guy. So it's tough because it's less exciting than designing a new app or like designing something from scratch. But you can gain a lot of traction and credibility with your team just by being the guy that's happy to take a problem and really drill into it and look at the code, dig through logs, really understand what's wrong. Um, and then the other advantage is that you really when you've done that a number of times, you really start to understand the system pretty deeply. And it's much easier to design new things when you understand how it can break. So I think that's the one part of super generic advice that I'd have. I'm happy to talk about other things too if you want to chat about like Scrum or CR practices or coding standards or anything like that. But if you're just saying like overall career, I'd say when you first start, volunteer to be the deep dive guy, and that'll gain you a lot of credibility in a hurry. So yeah, happy to chat. While I'm waiting for any other messages to come in or any other topics you want to hit, I'm just going to pull up another problem and take a look at it. But happy to dialogue about anything else that you're interested in talking about too. So this problem is on an 8x8. Well, let me, before I do that, since I have an audience, um, when I first started at my current job, um, there was a service that nobody liked or wanted to work on. It was a reporting service so it was, aggregating data and rendering it. And most of what our team did was request reply, recommendations, machine learning. And I volunteered to do some bug fixes and maintenance on the reporting service because I knew that it mattered and customers really cared about it. And it meant that I didn't get to work on some of the trendy or cooler stuff right away. But because I really understood that service and I was one of the only people who did, it did lead to a lot of opportunities to influence more other teams who were needing to use it or take it over or make changes in it. And it led to being able to give a lot of guidance to some junior engineers who came on and had to work in that service as well, like about a year later. So it's paid off for me well, where even though it may not be exciting or fun at the time, if you are willing to be the dive in and fix it guy, it can give good yields in the end. So with that, I'll stop giving anecdotes and we'll dive into an available captures for Rook, which is a chess problem, which is why I picked this one. So I don't really know what to expect here. Uh, well, let me pause myself one more time. So Twisted Tushar, what are you excited about with your career, getting started in your job? What are you nervous about? What do you think will go well? What are you worried about? Just curious to hear how you're feeling about starting a first job. On an 8x8 chessboard, there's exactly one right white rook, R, and some number of white bishops, B, and black pawns, P, and empty squares. When the rook moves, it chooses one of the four. I don't know Scrum is other engineering practices, but we'll get back here for sure. Cool. Yeah. Yeah. Um, One of the things that I found after I graduated college was that I had a lot of the technical skills. So I knew how to write code, I knew how to understand algorithms, but a lot of the practical side of working on a software engineering team, like using Git and version control and Scrum and like software project management type things, software development lifecycle wasn't really there yet. Yeah. And that's, you say you don't have much development experience, so you don't know what to expect. Totally understandable. Like coming out of college, a lot of your learning is going to be on the job because in college you learn the technical, the theoretical. And at least for me, I graduated a little over a decade now, which makes me very old, um, or right about a decade. But a lot of the practical stuff just had to come on the job. And that's fine. Like I found that I didn't mind that. It was just kind of a continuation of learning in a different context. So it's always good to take that attitude in and just be ready to learn and be enthusiastic and ready to dive in and understand stuff and know that you're going to know a lot of technical stuff and there are going to be some practical aspects that you'll have to pick up on the fly. When the rook moves, it chooses one of four cardinal directions, then moves in that direction until it chooses to stop, reaches the edge of the board, captures a black pawn, or is blocked by a white bishop. A rook is considered attacking a pawn if the rook can capture. I'm excited to learn. That's awesome. Yeah. And that's a great attitude to take into your first job is um, understanding what you can do. Because if you made it through school, you've learned some stuff, and you're probably a smart guy. You can make it through your degree, and you got hired. And being able to acknowledge that and be ready to contribute, but also be ready to learn the stuff you don't know is a great way to start. So it sounds like you're off in a really good direction. Uh, Considered attacking a pawn if the rook can capture the pawn. On the rook's turn, the number of available captures for the white rook is the number of pawns the rook is attacking. Return the number of available captures for the right rook. Is that it? Okay. This doesn't seem too bad, but let me, before I get cocky, let me read through it and see if it is. Oh, that's a terrific point. I don't have any socials up. I need to do that. Um, I don't really want to pull up my LinkedIn on my stream because that might show like my private messages and stuff. But um, I can let me once I'm off stream, I'll dig up my Twitter at least, and that'll be one way that you could stay in contact. I don't post a whole lot on Twitter. I don't post a whole lot on LinkedIn either, but there I at least like follow some computer sciencey stuff and software engineering. So once I'm off stream and I'm not sharing my screen anymore, I'll post a few things and we can connect from there. So thanks for asking. I haven't ever considered putting up any kind of social contact, but it'd be great to connect with people in another way because once the stream is over, you kind of lose touch. And don't worry about interrupting. That's kind of why I do it on stream. Is it's fun to connect with people. It's fun to have something that you're doing and that you can take a look at. But it's also just fun to chat. And if you are prepping for an interview and doing Leetcode to do it, you have to be ready for an interviewer to stop you and ask a question either about the problem or about something else. So don't worry at all. Happy to keep chatting while we're working on it. Okay, so my first thought here is what will I be provided? But it looks like I just get a board. So let's start writing out a solution. But I don't think it's too bad. So one, search the board for yeah, absolutely. Thanks for stopping by. Great to chat with you. I'll throw Twitter into um, my profile at some point. You can pick that up and follow or whatever. So yeah, thanks for stopping by. Hopefully I'll see you again. So I think the solution here is going to be search the cardinal directions from the rook. I think I'm just going to say that this will be recursively. I twisted Tushar. I don't know if you are still here, but I do a blog on Medium. I think I've got that up in my Twitch profile. If I don't, I'll add that as well. And there I do post kind of a combination of Java quirks that I found and some AWS, how-tos and such, and then just some general software engineering career stuff. So if you're interested, you can take a look there. Give me a follow. Greatly appreciate it, especially if it's helpful for you. And if it's not, you can tell me that too. So I don't know if you're still on or not, but if you are, I'll get that in there too. Search the cardinal directions from the rook recursively. Mark or return 1 if it's a capture. So 2A, take into account the rules and the board blocked by bishop. Yeah, so this is an impossible chess position. This can't happen. But it is interesting from that perspective. And here you've got 3. So I think that's not too bad. So we can find the rook, and then we just need to recurse out in every direction or into the cardinal directions from the board. And recurse, I don't know if recurse is really the right word, but we're just going to iterate. So we're going to iterate in as far as we can in each direction. Okay, so let's go ahead and give this a shot. So first we need to iterate the entirety of the array and find the rook x equals nothing so far. Int, well, I guess I do have to initialize this, or Java is going to complain at me. Rook y. And then I is less than board dot length. I is less than board at 0 dot length. And there I could be more careful, but because I'm guaranteed, or at least I think I'm guaranteed, yeah, for board dot length, or board at I dot length to be 8. I'm not too worried about this. I could just hard code the board edges, but I think that's fine. So actually this will be 9 because there will be 8 elements in there starting from 0. So let's find the rook. And actually, I'm going to say if these are -1. So if I want a way to break out of this extra loop, so rook x is not equal to -1, then break. And in here, if board at ij is equal to r, then rook x equals I, rook y equals j. So now we have our starting points, and then we're going to break. So I don't want to continue this loop any more than I have to. So now we've got our starting indices, and we really just need to go the max in every direction that we can. So starting at yeah, or actually int attacks equals 0. So I want to keep track of the attacks, and then we're going to have an int y, which is equal to rook y. Let's reverse those. Int x, which is equal to rook x. And then from here, we're just going to recurse up and down. I think there are some fancier ways that I could do this, but I think we are just going to do a series of while loops. So the first one we'll do is while x is greater than 0. X minus minus. If board at x at y is equal to p, then attacks gets plus equal 1, and then we're going to break. Because if I find a pawn I can attack, then I stop. I wouldn't want to include extra pawns on this path, which I guess I wouldn't in this scenario, but if there's a pawn behind this pawn, I wouldn't want to include it. And else if board at x, y is equal to a b, break. Okay, and then we need to go the other direction. So then while x is less than or equal to 8, x plus plus, and we're actually going to I think I have to do a fair amount of copy paste here. We'll pause at the end of this and see if there is a way to optimize it, because it feels like there should be. Um, yeah, so we'll start with a bunch of copy paste, and then we'll see if we can't improve on it. Oh, and actually, after each of these, I need to reset x. So at the end of this, x gets rook x. And then down here as well, x gets rook x. Here we're going to do y plus plus, and then we're going to reset y, which the further I go with this, the nastier it feels. But we'll start with this. Like I keep saying, we'll start with this and see what we can do. So while y is greater than or equal to 0, I think that's a mistake I've got up here. Yep, y or x greater than or equal to 0, y minus minus, and then down here we're going to return attacks. So let's try that. We'll see what we get. Array index out of bounds on line 62. Oh, no. Okay. So here I do need to take it back to just less than because I'm going to iterate once past my check. I could set that up in a different way, but I think it's fine for this. Okay, 3. Okay. 3, 0, 3. And then array index out of bounds, which is interesting. On line 42. Oh, I bet I know what this, or maybe not. Let me grab this input because that's not what I expected. Array index out of bounds, no kidding. Okay, so while x is less than 8, and there is a rook, right? Maybe I can, actually, I don't know if that's legit input or not, but there is a rook. So man, okay. So let me just print x, I guess. That's interesting. Is there... That is strange. Let me see. I'm suspicious if the board always has the right length, so let me print out... okay, so we're going to print out I. Board at I dot... Or, yeah, so I want to do system.out.println board.length. And then down here, I want to do system.out.println board.length. Board at I.length. And that'll tell me if I've actually got an 8x8. I'm wondering if there's something off there. Nope. Well, let me, just want to see, I want to see all of that because error is not a statement. Int k equals unreachable statement. And what I don't want to do is break. So let's try that one more time. Okay. Oh, okay. So I need to back this up one more. Less than 7 really is what my goal should be. Yeah, so this needs to be less than 7. And then we're going to iterate one more time and hit 7, but we don't want to go all the way to 8 because length is 8. So we have 7 elements, or length of 7. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so that's not bad. Looks like it works. Let's think if there's a way that I could optimize this. Because I've just got a lot of copy paste. And the first thing that comes to mind would be some sort of matrix multiplication so that I can pass in. That doesn't really. Or no. Okay. 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 So let's try and define a method that would do this better. So private int get attack final int board final start x. Let's just make this easier to read. Final int start x, final int start y, final int change x, final int change y. Okay. So now I think I can move this logic down. So while y is less than or equal to, let's just keep the logic the same for now, and greater than 0, and x is less than 7, and x is greater than 0, then we're going to do uh, int cur y equals start y, or no, I need to start that up here. So int cur y. I don't know if I do. I think I can just use start y here. So, and maybe I should just call it x and y then. Okay. And that's actually what I was doing in the loop conditions. So y plus equals change y, x plus equals change x, and then it's going to be the same logic here. So if board at x, y is p, here we're actually just going to return 1, no need for a break. And here we're going to return 0. And then if we make it all the way through the loop, we're going to return 0. So I think this should help. So let me replace Let me replace these. So now instead of doing that pretty long, kind of redundant iteration, now we're going to call attacks plus equals get attack board, and then rook x, rook y, because those are our starts. The first exchange is going to be -1, and we're not going to change y, and that's it. And then we're going to do the same thing here, but this time it's going to be a +1, and we're not going to change y. And then we're going to hold x the same, and take y back to 0, or search down, and then we're going to finally search up. And I think that should work. Char star star. So this is not an int, it is a char. Y plus equals final parameter. Oh, okay, so I don't want these to be final. I actually want to be able to change them. I could see an argument for making those final and creating some kind of a shadow variable, but for this it's probably fine. Okay, so this should really be the same logic, except it's not. Okay. So what did I break? I wonder if there's something. Well, let's try this. So I don't really care what x and y are. Well, let's throw them in. Change x. Change y. And then down here, we're just going to print out again system.out.println x, y. Okay. Or that's not helpful. Let's grab this test case that's causing issues and give that a shot. But it looks like it should be 2, because 1, the rook should iterate this direction, and then down, and we should find it. Exit 00 is correct. Are we never... Okay. Fantastic. So this needs to be updated to be less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, because otherwise there's a chance that we may not do the increment at all. So I think if I just move this to the bottom, because I want the loop to iterate, or just to start. So even if you're at 0, I need you to run once, but then this should still prevent the index out of bounds. So let's try that. That looks much better. Okay, let's submit it. This shouldn't change any behavior. Okay, there we go. But it will be a little bit cleaner from a maintenance perspective, because instead of having to worry about a bunch of copy pasted while blocks, we've just got this function where the logic is kind of abstracted. So this needs to know what direction it's going to search, and this needs to know how to search, but we don't have the same code copy pasted a bunch of times. So it looks like we're pretty fast, but I want to submit another handful of times just to see if that changes. And then, even though I took a break, I'm probably going to call that good for tonight, because I got through 3, which I'm happy with, in roughly an hour plus the break. Okay. I can't get better than 29 milliseconds, which is interesting. But I also can't think of a way to optimize it. So I think with that, I'm going to call it good. Thanks to anybody who stopped by and hung out. Much appreciated. Feel free to follow or for the blog. I will work on getting some socials up, and we'll go from